Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe in the studios of our flagship stations, 89.3 Lakes FM and Civic Center TV. In addition, today, as always, we're on Birmingham Area Municipal Access, both of our TV stations, Comcast, Channel 15, and AT&T, Channel 99. On the radio in West Bloomfield and the surrounding areas on 89.3 Lakes FM, and in the Birmingham Bloomfield area on 88.1 WBFH The Biff. In addition, today, as always, we are on the web, civiccentertv.com/watch-live, or click on the Watch Live link on our homepage. We're also on Facebook, facebook.com/civiccentertv15, and facebook.com/lakesfm. And as always, joining me here in the studio is Ronnie Dahl.
Tyler, I am feeling the allergies this morning.
Oh no. Bad allergy day?
Yesterday, it was such a beautiful night out last night, so I went ahead and was working outside on the patio and, taking Trixie Dixie for her numerous walks throughout the evening, and my eyes are so puffy and red.
Oh no.
And same thing this morning, because I take her out a couple times before I come in, and I'm one of those people, I can't put eye drops in my eyes.
Okay.
I'm weird about that.
I kind of was just like, you can get the drops, but just trying to keep your eyes open when you actually do the drop. It just doesn't work. You're just one of those blinkers where something's coming toward your eye. You're just naturally blinking.
It is that, and like the nasal spray too. My husband always does that. I'm like, how do you do that? Yeah. But I was trying the eye drop, and my eyes are so red and puffy. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. But I do that, and it's like, I wonder if other people have that. I can't be alone in that. I mean, you're looking at a person, by the way, that I took baby aspirin up until I was probably 20, 21, because I couldn't swallow pills.
Oh, okay.
It took me a long time to be able to swallow anything bigger. And the baby aspirin, it was the orange one, so I could chew them because they tasted good.
Yeah, the chewable ones. Yeah, that helps with that.
Meanwhile, I had a twin sister that I think in third grade or whatever, she was diagnosed with epilepsy. So she used to have to take these horse pills. They were so huge, like every day. I'm like, how do you do that? So for me, here I am chewing baby aspirin. I can swallow a regular pill now, but I still can't put eye drops in my eyes or put the nasal spray up my nose.
I mean, the eye drops and the nasal spray are just the kinds of things that you're not doing so often that you're just developing the skill over time or developing the ability over time. It's something that's just when you need them, as opposed to pills where it's like vitamins or other medicines you might be taking. You're taking those more regularly, so that's something that I feel like you can develop a little bit quicker or easier, at least overall, than getting an eye drop in your eye or doing the nasal spray thing, which both is just weird altogether of a sensation unless you're doing that regularly.
Yeah. And I always wonder too, like people that put their contacts in all the time. Again, it's just a habit, right? You get used to it because it's either wear glasses or put contacts in. Right. So you get used to putting contacts in. But for me, it's like, I don't know. I've never had to wear contacts. Maybe if I had to wear contacts, that would make it easier for me to put drops in my eyes. But so I'm trying to put so much cover up and makeup on. This is where it's good to be a girl.
Okay.
Because we get to wear makeup.
Sure.
To try to hide these things. Because I still have these huge red rims, though.
Oh, no.
I'm telling you. Hey, I will say though, because you never wear makeup.
Not traditionally here. No. I haven't.
So for people out there, just so you know, when you're on broadcast news and you're a guy, or if you're doing an interview as well, they always wear makeup.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I remember when I was working for ATF. And we got a new boss. We call him a SAC, Special Agent in Charge. And I went out and, out of my own pocket too, by the way, created a little makeup kit for him. And he was like, oh, absolutely not. But for guys in law enforcement, so many of them are bald.
Okay.
For whatever reason. It's like You need makeup. I'm telling you, I'm doing this as a favor. Put your ego aside. Put some powder on. If anything, just a blot powder, right?
Right.
But it's needed. It's needed. It's just to make you look better.
Yeah, no, it helps. It's helpful, and really, guys, it's not a big deal. It's really not. I mean, I've done theater before, and I've done some other television work before where I've had to wear makeup, and it's really not that bad of a situation. It wipes right off when you're done, and it does make you look better on screen or on stage or whatever that it is that you're doing. So it's not really a big deal, and in that case, all you're trying to do is make them look more presentable on camera in that situation. So there's no real reason to be macho. In my case, I just happen to not be wearing them. It's mostly a time constraint here this in the mornings, but also on top of that, there's really not much you can do to make this face look better for television.
Tyler.
I'm just saying, it's reality. It's fine. It's okay.
So while I was sitting out on my patio last night, getting my eyes all puffy from the cottonwood in the neighborhood, I totally busted a deer.
Okay.
Cruising in, you know what? I'm cool with you, like munching on all the leaves in the trees, right? So there's one, and we've decided we named her Dora, by the way, because it's the same one. Like, you get to know the deer in your backyard.
Of course,
And so I sent this to my husband because we have a little stone path that leads out to the trail, the West Bloomfield Trail from our backyard.
Okay.
And the deer is just walking down, Tyler, like it owns the trail. Hi.
This is my trail.
Yeah, and we have a little.
Welcome to my trail. I am Dora the deer.
And we have a little pond right here.
Okay.
So usually they come drink out of it. There was a bird splashing in it, like having a party.
Oh, wow.
I was like, I don't want to be that bird.
Out there, yeah.
Right?
Have a good time.
And then I said, hey, Dora. She looks at me like.
Looks straight on me, like, yeah. How do you know my name? Who the hell are you?
Dora, you can hang out in the backyard.
Of course.
Stop eating my plants.
Right,
so
exactly.
all my flowers, my plants, you see the nubs where they're eating them.
Right. No more eating the plants. If you want to have a good time, go into that, puddle party over there with the birds and have a good time over there. Speaking of the birds, I came in here last night. Mind you, months ago, we had a little bit of a bird issue here.
Yeah.
I come in last night. I come back in last night to do the broadcast of the West Bloomfield Environmental Commission meeting. I walk into our garage area, and the second I walk in, I hear something off in the distance. I'm like, what is that flapping sound? I look up, and I see a bird just flying around the perimeter of the warehouse area here. So I'm just immediately springing into action. Okay, that's it. Here we go. Open the garage door. I sneak back over to where this bird has landed on some of our signage that's in our garage area, and I just start clapping and yelling, hey, what are you doing? And it flies right on out of there. No more birds. How it got in there, nobody knows. I asked Jake about it because he had left earlier on the day before I had come back. He hadn't seen a bird in there. We haven't seen one in months. It didn't set the alarm off, so either this bird just zero dark 30'd its way on into this building, or it is very elusive with our security systems.
It's a James Bond bird.
It is. It is James Bond, the bird. It's James Bird. That's its name now.
You have to name them.
We do.
Come on, let's have a little fun.
Yeah, otherwise it's just obnoxious.
Oh, but the bird's gone.
It is.
Not like the last time where you guys had to keep trying.
I can confirm that bird flew straight on out of our garage door back there. So unless they found some other way in and they're still here, I don't know. I'm always paranoid about it. Every little slightly high pitched sound that's above me in this building makes me think birds.
Like the movie, right?
Yes, exactly. Just like that.
Hey, some good news. I kind of really feel like we're on the backside of this pandemic.
Yeah, it's looking like it.
My brother-in-law works with a company, and they do global work. And some of their customers are in China. And in China, it's basically life as they knew it before the pandemic, which is kind of an indicator that we could be on the backside of this. Because here, 40 Michigan counties have no virus activity as statewide coronavirus numbers continue to fall. So new cases of the virus in Michigan continue to fall with the increasing vaccination rates and in advance of the 4th of July holiday weekend. Most social and economic activities have already resumed, more of an appearance of pre-pandemic as the numbers continue to improve. Again, not quite there, but getting closer. So while case counts continue to fall, people are still dying from the effects of the virus. The state health department announced 182 new cases of the virus statewide Tuesday with 26 deaths. But really, a lot of the focus is on the more populated counties. So 40 of the state's 83 counties had no new cases or deaths. And there were 32 cases, 4 deaths here in Wayne County, 18 cases, 8 deaths in Detroit, 18 cases, 2 deaths in Oakland County, and then 15 cases and 2 deaths in Macomb County. So we are looking at such improving numbers here in the state of Michigan. But of course, then you watch the news and there's so much concern outside of Michigan, but also globally about this new variant.
Yeah, the variants are still very much on the top of mind of health officials throughout the country and throughout the world, as it's been taking its toll in several other countries east of us, such as the United Kingdom, definitely in India. And it's a cause for concern because these variants have crossed the Atlantic before and have entered our country, and they have wreaked havoc in some cases. We saw the B117 variant, which is now the dominant strain of COVID-19 in the U.S., have really a field day across several states, especially here in Michigan a couple months ago, and that's always going to be the concern. It's why there continues to be a push to get to that 70% threshold by July 4th, which looks like it's definitely at this point not going to happen. But it's also why we're starting to see, as that's becoming more of a reality, that we're probably not going to reach that benchmark anytime soon, that we need to be helping other countries get the vaccines so that they can prevent themselves from falling victim to this new variant, the Delta variant.
So with that, Tyler, the governor is really kind of hinting in a big way that she's going to be relaxing the state's remaining COVID-19 restrictions in the coming days. Some say it could come a little bit later today. So it's scheduled for July 1st. The governor said of her previous plan for when the next virus policy changes could come. But I think you should stay tuned. With the percentage of residents covered by vaccinations increasing, the number of new COVID cases in Michigan has dropped during the month of June. So the changing numbers have increased pressure to more quickly ease the remaining restrictions, as other states have done, including California and New York. So kind of a dial back. It was May 20th. Whitmer announced plans to end the statewide mandates on July 1st and, for the most part, bring life back to normal. Michigan has been under different levels of emergency orders on gatherings and businesses for about 15 months. The first COVID-19 cases reported March 10th, 2020, state's June 1st epidemic order from the Department of Health and Human Services generally limited indoor crowds at businesses and restaurants to 50% of normal capacity constraints and require non-vaccinated individuals to wear masks at indoor gatherings. That order is scheduled to expire July 1st. The governor, like I said, is expected to talk a little bit later today. She's going to be in Detroit. A lot of people are anticipating, like I said, she's been hinting that these restrictions are going to be lifted a little bit early.
Yeah, earlier on in the week she had said on this front, stay tuned. That's usually an indication from her when she's saying that in a press conference earlier on in the week, that she's going to make some sort of announcement later on in the week or very early on the next week. And as we're approaching July 1st and the numbers in the state of Michigan continue to look much more positive than they did before, it's fairly certain that she's going to lift some, if not all, of these restrictions before that July 1st change comes around. That being said, the caution that is still there, it needs to be there because the state is not at that full vaccination rate, and you want to kind of toe that line of opening gradually and seeing how things go without just lifting everything altogether and creating a situation where people could continue to be spreading the virus and you have to roll things back. Because now once you're at a point where you're reopening things, to dial back even slightly is going to be a real nightmare scenario in terms of public reaction, because this is something that people have been waiting for 15 plus months.
And, with that too, Tyler, you kind of wonder, at this point in time, the vaccine is widely available. She knows she's not reaching those benchmarks. She knows it. And so, they're trying to say, well, throughout this administration and throughout this pandemic, she has changed as the science and data, although we haven't heard that term from her in quite some time. No. It has indicated to do so. So I think at this point in time, because we did not see a huge surge in numbers out of the Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah, and that's one of those indicators that shows that maybe we can just go ahead and lift these restrictions and continue to, as we get people slowly but surely vaccinated against COVID-19, not have to worry as much as we were when we were earlier on in the vaccination process. Of course, it's the state of Michigan still well away from having everybody be fully vaccinated against COVID-19, whether that be with their single shot from Johnson & Johnson or the two-shot variations coming from Moderna and Pfizer. So it doesn't look like it's going to get there. Things have been fine. I think that there's definitely definitely the public is clamoring to have the rest of these restrictions be lifted and be back to some semblance of normalcy. And I also think that people are going to continue to be cautious against COVID-19, knowing the situation that we're currently in and knowing that we're not quite at that herd immunity point.
So with that too, we should point out that for so many of us, we've gone back to our regular life for the most part.
Right.
If you're vaccinated, sometimes you wear a mask, sometimes you don't. But really, this would impact so many of the businesses, because we should remember that while she did lift the curfew on so many of the bars and the restaurants, they're still limited at 50% capacity.
Yeah.
So, and we're going into wedding season, and this could be make or break for so many of these venues that last year had to pretty much go on hiatus from their business, right, until this year. So if they can reopen and allow more than 50% capacity, it could really help them with their bottom line. Hey, we've talked about this before as well. More evidence suggests that COVID-19 was here in the U.S. by Christmas of 2019. Mm-hmm. A new analysis of blood samples from 24,000 Americans taken early last year in the latest and largest study to suggest that the new virus popped up here in the U.S. in December of 2019, weeks before cases were first recognized by health officials. The analysis is not definitive, and some experts do still remain skeptical, but federal health officials are increasingly accepting a timeline in which small numbers of COVID-19 infections may have occurred here in the U.S. before the world ever became aware of the dangerous new erupting virus in China. So the pandemic coronavirus emerged in Wuhan, China in late 2019. Officially, the first U.S. infection to be identified was a traveler in Washington State, a guy that had returned from Wuhan on January 15th. He sought help at a clinic on January 19th. So CDC officials initially said the spark that started the U.S. outbreak arrived during a 3-week window from mid-January to February. Research since then, including some done by the CDC, has suggested a small number of infections occurred much earlier. And a CDC-led study published in December 2020 analyzed 7,000 samples from the American Red Cross. Blood donations suggested the virus infected some Americans as early as the middle of December 2019. And we know, like I do remember back at that time and in the beginning of this pandemic, but around that time, November, December, early January, knowing people that, I have the worst flu I've ever had. Mm-hmm. And looking back on it, and then they were like, I think I already had COVID, but there was no COVID test back then.
Right.
So what do you do? It was like, no, you didn't. Do you remember that at the beginning? They were like, there's no way, I wasn't here.
Yeah.
Guess what? It was.
Yeah, I had some family that had a similar situation that said, yeah, I think I just had a really, really bad flu. Like, this was not like any other I've had before. It just felt a little bit different, but they didn't know at the time that it was COVID, and months later they presumed it may have been. And if you think about the timeline, it's very plausible that COVID-19 was in the U.S. several months before it was first reported, because there is so much travel between the U.S. and China, because China had just before this period of time discovered COVID-19 in Wuhan. And you think about it this way: people are going to be traveling in and out of Wuhan in China. Wuhan locks down. That doesn't necessarily mean that the virus didn't get out of Wuhan during the time of that lockdown. People are still traveling between China and the United States, which means that if there's interaction between people that had been in Wuhan and China, people who had been in China from the U.S. coming back to the U.S. during that period of time, it's fairly easy to say that the virus could have spread at that period of time in some small numbers that were undetected, or that eventually spread exponentially but are undetected until it's really well known. And we didn't really have a great knowledge of this virus until right around that time in 2019, or a couple months after that in early 2020. And of course, that first reported case in the U.S. didn't come until mid-January. So this isn't entirely surprising. This shouldn't be a surprise as we learn more about COVID-19 and the scientific community dives more into the evidence that was presented before the pandemic in late 2019.
And as a reminder, you can always get the latest headlines. Go to civiccentertv.com. Click on coronavirus. That's where you find the latest headlines that are posted each and every morning before we come in the studio, but also at the top of the page. Direct links to the CDC, State of Michigan, and other valuable resources, so you can check those out for yourself as well. With that, let's take a quick break here on the Megacast, and when we come back, we'll be speaking with the Vice President for Ann Arbor SPARK. What's it been like for them in the middle of the pandemic, and also new businesses that are popping up or trying to get started in the middle of the pandemic? That's next here on the Megacast.
One of the things you can look for in your friends is a change in behavior. These can be big changes, they can be small changes in mood, physical appearance. They may be sleeping less or sleeping more, drinking more, or their eating patterns may be different. One big change that can be pretty obvious is change in motivation. Do they no longer want to play basketball? Do they no longer want to play video games? Now that we're spending more time online and in virtual settings, it's really important to pay attention to the language that your friend is using and the words they're using to communicate.
So when we text our friends, are they taking longer amounts of time to respond? Are they not responding at all? You don't have to be an expert to try to recognize these signs. The second that you feel it in your gut and that you're concerned, that's the second to have the conversation and open the door to what might be going on.
Today, it is easier than ever to join Michigan's Organ Donor Registry and help build a bridge of hope for organ, tissue, and eye donation. Just one person can potentially save or help improve the lives of up to 75 people. By joining, your legacy could be the gift of life. Sign up today at michigan.gov/SOS or at any of the more than 145 Secretary of State self-service stations located across Michigan. Be part of Michigan's Bridge of Hope by adding your name to the Organ Donor Registry.
Thank you for being with us here on this Thursday. I'm Ronnie Dahl here in the studios alongside Mr. Tyler Keefe. If I cough and sneeze, I'm sorry.
It's fine. It's just allergies.
I know. I feel like we should get buttons made that say it's not COVID, it's allergies.
I need to make a graphic that, because we both have allergies here and there, and yours are acting up today. I'm sure mine will act up another point. I need to make a graphic that I can just flash onto the bottom of the screen whenever any of us are having any allergy situation. It says it's just allergies, no worries, we're vaccinated.
So with that, though, we do have a great show for you here on this Thursday. The one thing I love about this show, Tyler, is we get to talk to so many interesting people with so many different companies and organizations. I learn something new each and every day. And with that, we had Brian Kelly on, I think, last week, and he's, of course, with the Small Business Association here in the state of Michigan, prior lieutenant governor. And he was talking about how applications or registrations for new businesses have skyrocketed throughout this pandemic, which is good news because I think people are realigning their life goals. But it's one thing to have that goal, spend $50, $80 to get it registered as an LLC with the state of Michigan, and then actually take it into a business. Bill Mayer with us now. He's the vice president for the Entrepreneurial Services out of Ann Arbor SPARK. You help people get it from that dream to a reality.
It's true. That's what we do at Ann Arbor SPARK.
What a cool job you must have.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, one of the realities of being an entrepreneur is it's hard. A lot of people tell you they don't like your idea. There are too many mountains to climb, and you need to be a resilient person. And so, having done that myself multiple times, it's really nice to be in a position, and my team are a very similar makeup, to be able to assist the next generation of startups with what we do for our work. And then the other great thing about Ann Arbor and just Michigan in general is the network of mentors and advisors and serial entrepreneurs that really can add value to kind of a nascent or emerging startup.
So with that, Bill, how important is it to network with others that are kind of walking that same journey as you?
Huge. So I'll say it again, just to nail this point home, your network is your biggest asset. So whether that's investors, mentors, advisors, or just, other early stage company CEOs. In fact, we run a thing called the CEO Masterclass that brings a group of 8 to 10 current CEOs of a similar stage together so that they can, sort of share problems they're having, they can get advice in sort of a secure setting. But those connections they last. And so another example of that would be our Entrepreneurs Boot Camp, which begins next week. That we run 2 cohorts a year. And the one that starts next week the culmination will be during our A2 Tech 360 week. And so we've got 12 teams, which is the maximum number of teams that we allow, enrolled. They're all different types of companies, but they're all walking down, actually probably running down the same path together of doing customer discovery, trying to validate the market fit with their product, trying to confirm they actually have a legitimate business model that will sustain the company, and all of these things that you want to do if you're sort of shopping the idea, should I turn this into a real business? We just give a ton of support and some deadlines. Deadlines are very helpful. And, sort of take these 12 teams through together. And that network that's built off of that bootcamp experience, that stays with these entrepreneurs for the rest of their career.
So, Bill, why do you think we're seeing an increased number of people filing for LLCs to start businesses throughout the pandemic?
I'm really glad you're asking this because this topic I find really interesting, and I feel like sometimes it gets glossed over a little bit. So, in the world of early stage, it's very easy, as you described, to set up an LLC or a C Corp. $50, register on the state's website, which is called LARA, and you're off to the races. But the issue is the survival rate of new businesses. So if we're having X number of companies file, what I'm really interested in 5 years from now, how many of those companies are still alive and are doing well? So we track, and keeping in mind Ann Arbor and Ypsilanti, roughly about 125,000 people that are living in Ann Arbor proper, and throw on Ypsilanti on top. It's not a huge community, it's a nice sized community, but we've come to learn that if we can exceed 50 new companies created in any given year, that's a really excellent year for us. So every year we track how many brand new companies are created, but also sort of pass the screens that are necessary to work with Ann Arbor SPARK. And those screens are things such as, are they working on a product versus like a consulting service or a service industry business? Is there technology and innovation present? And is it scalable? And scalable means, do they have the ability to achieve $10 million of revenue or more in 5 years? So, some companies will kind of stall out at maybe the $1, $2, $3 million mark. But then you look at a company like Duo Security or LlamaSoft or, Groundspeed Analytics in Ann Arbor, that are hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue and the economic impact that has. And all those companies I just rattled off got their start in Ann Arbor and have grown and, hired the people they need in Ann Arbor. And it has a major impact on our economy. So, we also understand that in recessions, you tend to see a lot of startups born. But, a year and a half ago, I had no idea if a recession was similar to a pandemic. And so I was sweating at night, waiting to see if, this lockdown and the sort of contraction of purchasing and all of that would have a major negative impact on our startups. But some of the things we learned are, number one, I think you asked this point earlier, some people lost their day jobs.
Yeah.
And just like when Pfizer pulled out of Ann Arbor, we had a lot of displaced scientists and other PhDs. They started companies. So we did have some people that either chose to leave or lost their job and had the idea that they've always wanted to execute on. And so now's the time. The other thing we noticed is because people were working remotely, it was easier to get a hold of people. So, you need to talk to the purchasing manager or the CEO of a company. Guess what? You can get a hold of them more easily because it's during the pandemic. And then the last thing, and this, there was a lag of a couple of months for this to take effect, but there's been a longstanding tradition for investment capital that, you got to sit down in the room together, shake hands, maybe have dinner together before people feel comfortable. And that all got blown apart. So we actually had rounds close, multi-million-dollar funding rounds close in 2020 and 2021 where the people had never physically met. And so I'm very curious to see if that sticks around.
This is fascinating to me to see just what you're saying is that how many of them are going to survive, but also is it something where because so many people were on unemployment, so they had a bit of a cushion and they had all this extra time, let's take it and build something out of that. And could that kind of be a model going forward for some of these companies to support these innovations and these dreams to say, hey, maybe we'll give you 6 months of a stipend to help develop your company?
I love that idea personally. I don't have a lot of control over the corporate decisions about granting sort of sabbaticals, but I really think it's a great idea because if you go out to either the East or West Coast, one of the things you'll find is, let's pick on Google because they have an office in Ann Arbor and Detroit, and I feel like I can pick on them. It's sort of a long-standing tradition that if there's a, talented engineer, a group of engineers or people that have a great idea and they would quit Google to go form a startup, and that's considered pretty socially acceptable. And you'd think I always try to channel the people's parents. And are just like, oh my God, you're leaving this, stable job with good benefits to join a startup that's not going to pay you anything. What are you doing? But that's a long history of entrepreneurship in the United States and the rest of the world. So these ideas that get spun out of larger companies are great. And sometimes what will happen too is there's a lot of corporate intrapreneurship programs where these companies are forever looking for innovations to stay relevant in their market. And so you'll have an idea that gets incubated inside of the company space, and then they eventually make the decision to spin it out into its new freestanding company. So we do see that as a new type of company creation ecosystem.
Bill Mayer with us here on the Megacast. He's the Vice President for Entrepreneurial Services in Ann Arbor SPARK. And with that, Bill, if I can ask you, where do non-competes come into this industry? I mean, I come from the, media side, and we had non-competes, and a lot of times you couldn't work in the market for another year or 2 years or whatever your non-compete was. But even pizza companies and Home Depot and Lowe's, they're now implementing non-compete. So could that impact the growth of some of these startups?
Okay, so can I put the disclaimer? This is my opinion. If there are any attorneys out there, please don't email me. Okay, so non-competes are notoriously difficult to enforce. And what you're seeing is a shift in the labor market, and there's a problem with the labor market. There's been a problem for decades, but it's gotten considerably worse in terms of startup companies that can't pay as high a salaries as larger companies. It's riskier. The company could be out of business in 6 months. That's a real possibility. And so, how does a little company compete with bigger companies for talent? And so, not having things like NDAs in place, not NDAs, non-competes in place, just makes it a more attractive employment offer. The NDAs are also, something that's really problematic. A lot of times entrepreneurs will think, I have this great technology and I don't want to tell anyone what it is because they're going to steal it from me. And the exact opposite is true. You need to get up on the box and start yelling at people about it, because you need to make sure people care about what you're doing. So, kind of secrecy, non-competes, NDAs, that kind of stuff. We tell people to just kind of throw that out the window. A guy named Steve Blank once had a great quote where he's like, Mr. and Mrs. Entrepreneur, I want you to call who you perceive as your biggest competitor and dare them to steal your technology, because nobody has time for that. Like they have a million other problems. They're not going to take a raw kernel of an idea, because it's really all about the execution of that idea and building a real business on top of it. And any entrepreneurs listening will know, you're talking about like a 5 to 15 year commitment of your life that you're just going to be working crazy hours and putting your entire, energy into it. And that's not something people do lightly. I mean, occasionally it'll happen, but it's a very, very rare occurrence.
So tell us more about Spark. What are some of the big innovations coming up the pipeline? So, one of the things, first of all, Spark is an economic development group that does two fundamental things. We support large companies, so, the LlamaSofts and Duo Securities that we have, and then we support small, either, pre-formation, pre-revenue tech startups, all the way up to when they have about $5 million of revenue. And so one of the things that our friends at the Michigan SBDC and the Small Business Development Center and the Michigan Economic Development Corporation did is they prioritized in 2020 technologies that were helpful to our COVID situation. And so we had different mobility companies, sort of autonomous delivery robots. So there's humanless contact. One of my favorites is we had a woman her family's from India, and the air pollution is pretty bad over there. So she developed this really slick mask called a breeze bubble that's got N95 like swappable filters in it and everything before anybody was talking about any kind of pandemic. And she, had it in market right when it hit, and it's super relevant. And so her business went through the roof by virtue of great timing. And then, just sort of all these, we have oral vaccine delivery, other types of innovations in life science and in the mobility space that, got a special source of funding because they were helping the situation. But really, we can work with any technology sector as long as they kind of meet those criteria I laid out at the beginning. Life science, advanced manufacturing, any, software, you name it, as long as it meets those criteria, we can help. So, Bill, if I can ask you, it's been a tough year for not only companies, but also you're right there in Ann Arbor. My niece just graduated from the University of Michigan, but we know internships were so hard for these students to get, or even if they got them, they were remote, so they still didn't get the knowledge that they would have received had they been in person. Do you think that's going to kind of impact the pipeline, the talent pipeline there in Ann Arbor?
Well, let me just say thank you for asking that question. It's incredibly relevant, and something that we've been doing for the past, 10 years, let's say, in an effort to try and retain our University of Michigan graduates in the Ann Arbor region, or at least in Michigan anyway. We can match the cost of an intern with one of our companies. We do these special student curated events. We have our larger tech track, which is part of the A2 Tech 360 week in October. But we do, things where we take groups of students around to see our tech companies. And we do this thing called the Tech Homecoming and the Startup Career Fair, all in an effort to make our students who are interested in working in technology and startups aware of what's going on, because it used to drive me crazy when I would speak to a group of students and I'd put some of our local company logos up and nobody knew any of them. I'm like, how is this possible? So that's when, the light bulb came on that we need to take action on this. And we've been doing it for about, like I said, the last 10 years in Ann Arbor, and the Michigan Economic Development Corporation noticed that, and literally within the last 2 months has made an award to SPARK to administer this brand new internship program called the MI STEM Forward program. And it will basically take what we've been doing in Ann Arbor, do a 50% match on the cost of an intern. The only trick is that job description for the intern should have relevance to STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, mathematics. So computer software, front-end designers, physicists, chemists, things like that. We can make it really easy for people to, number one, find their interns, because our database has over 1,000 interns in it right now. And we have a big campaign going where if you're a student at any college or university in Michigan, make sure your resume is in that database, because our companies are looking at that database. And the ultimate goal here is to make sure that all students in Michigan know this, and they have their information in there. All employers in Michigan have the ability to see that database, and just first mover advantage. We're going to try and keep every STEM-based graduate we can in Michigan.
I love that. And can I ask you as well, because just thinking about the recent graduates, a lot of them didn't get to take advantage of internships. Do you have to be a current student enrolled? Because we know a lot of internships do surround being, enrolled in a college program.
Well, so the reality of the situation is a lot of companies and companies use internships as a major sort of vetting mechanism for their hiring process. And so a lot of times the companies desire to take an intern, sort of when they're a rising senior, so between their junior and senior year. And at the end of their internship, a lot of times they'll have a job offer for when they graduate, if it goes well. But we can actually do the match for the interns within 12 months after they graduate. So, if somebody's just out of school, that works too.
That's great to know, because we know it's just been a crazy year for so many of these college students.
It has.
And we want them to have the same opportunities as some of the other students as well. But they're bright. Utilize the talent that is here and keep them here in Michigan.
Yeah, it's a huge issue for our companies, is finding the people they need to hire.
Bill, it's been a fascinating conversation with you. What a cool job you have.
It's pretty fun, I have to admit. I mean, you get to make the world a better place and make a direct impact on all these innovative technologies as they're emerging. So, yeah, it's excellent. And if anybody wants to learn more about any of the programs we talk to, AnnArborUSA.org is our website. Just check it out and get in touch with my team if we can help.
Thank you so much for your time and your expertise, and also cool, like you're changing the world right there in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Exactly. Small little goal here, but we're trying our best.
There you go. Well, again, thank you for your time. We appreciate it. Again, SPARK, Ann Arbor SPARK. You can find them online. Oh, so much talent right here in the state of Michigan.
Yeah, we got a lot of talent in a variety of different fields. Of course, Bill had mentioned the STEM fields, especially here in Michigan, really in our college towns especially. We got a lot of young talent that are are going to be graduating next year or have graduated in the past few weeks and are going to be the future of the industry here in the state of Michigan. It's a growing industry, and we got a lot of really good people here in Michigan, and it's organizations like Ann Arbor SPARK and others like it that are trying to keep that talent here in Michigan so we can continue to develop our economy into the next generation of what it's going to be.
So for someone such as myself, I'm not science-based, I'm not math-based, I'm a creative side person, but I love what they do. But also, it's teaching us, think outside of the box.
Right.
And if anything out of COVID-19 and the crisis, we have learned stop thinking and doing things the way we used to do them. Do it different and do it better. And we need creative thinkers like that to help move us forward. With that, hey, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will be joined by the Chief of Police for the fine city of Keego Harbor. That's next here on the Megacast.
Who is struggling right now?
I am.
My son is.
Many are struggling with anxiety, depression, and substance use. Before it becomes a crisis, reach out to MyCal, the Michigan Crisis and Access Line, for free confidential support 24/7. Available in the Upper Peninsula and Oakland County. Just call or text 1-844-44-MyCal or chat online at michigan.gov/MyCal. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Motorcyclists are hard to see. To keep everyone safer, it's important to always look for them and know where most crashes occur. 84% of motorcycle and vehicle crashes happen on streets, not highways. And most crashes with motorcyclists occur when vehicle drivers are turning left. So before turning, especially to the left, make sure you look for motorcyclists. Then look again. It could save a life.
One of the things you can look for in your friends is a change in behavior. These can be big changes, they can be small changes in mood, physical appearance. They may be sleeping less or sleeping more, drinking more, or their eating patterns may be different. One big change that can be pretty obvious is change in motivation. Do they no longer want to play basketball? Do they no longer want to play video games? Now that we're spending more time online and in virtual settings, it's really important to pay attention to the language that your friend is using and the words they're using to communicate.
So when we text our friends, are they taking longer amounts of time to respond? Are they not responding at all? You don't have to be an expert to try to recognize these signs. The second that you feel it in your gut and that you're concerned, that's the second to have the conversation and open the door to what might be going on.
Whatever gets you talking.
Us here on the Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl here in the studios alongside the one, the only Mr. Tyler Keefe. He is our superhero behind the scenes, always getting us on air. Hey, just to let you know, of course, we're here Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. until noon live. You can always catch us Civic Center TV, Birmingham area municipal access, channel 15 Comcast, 99 on AT&T. Listen to us on the radio, 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 FM The Biff, or you can live stream us on our Facebook page. Everyone's like, what are you doing now?
Yeah, they ask me the same thing. Like, what is this? It's the Megacast. What does that mean? And I have to explain to them. It just means we're everywhere. No matter how you want to watch us or listen to us, we got it. You can find us.
I spent years in mainstream media, and I maybe not be out in the field chasing people down, like illegally dumping or doing bad things.
Right.
But in a way, this is so much more challenging because you have to prepare for a wide range of topics. Like, you never know where you're going to go. Like, we just went from Ann Arbor to Spark, and now we're here in our fine city of Keego Harbor, and we are always pleased to have our fine chief with us, Chief John Fitzgerald, here on the Megacast. Great to have you with us.
Good morning. How you doing today?
You know I love our fine city of Keego.
Yes, you do.
But to everyone out there who wants to come visit, we get it.
Of course.
We are the best secret in the area. But Chief, I feel like over the past, 3, 4, 5 years, people have discovered our secret. And now the big thing for them is to go out on the sandbar in the middle of summer. But there is the issue of parking in Keego. And, but you can't illegally park. Be respectful.
That is correct. We enjoy having people come to visit Keego and find out what we're about, and it's a great city to visit, and the sandbar is a good time for everybody, but we are a very limited parking city. Throughout the city, there is no parking on any city streets. It's because they're so narrow for the most part. We have to leave room for emergency vehicles to get through. So when the rules were made about that, it wasn't to keep people out of Keego. The problem is we just got to make sure fire trucks and the ambulances can get through when they have to. So that's why there's no parking on any street at any time in the city. With possible exception, you can call the police station if you're a resident here. We'll talk to you about a limited thing. If you have guests coming over for a special event, we'll work something out with you on that. But other than that, don't just pull into the city and park somewhere because you'll end up with a ticket on your car. Or there's business parking lots, and most of them are posted as tow-away zones if you're not a customer there. And that is a private business decision. It's not the police department doing the towing, but your car will probably end up at J&J Towing in Waterford. And I think the minimum towing fee is $150, so it's an expensive parking space you're going to get if the business calls to have it towed out of there.
And we know, I think it was Jaybirds last weekend or the weekend before, because it was a busy weekend out on the beach. They were towing cars left and right because they have a business to run. They have limited parking there as well. I know B1 is another popular place where they park and try to go over to the sandbar. You need to be respectful, and we understand it's challenging, but understand that and make arrangements with the boat owner that you're going out on their boat with, that you need to figure out parking.
That's correct. And, we have great restaurants. I mean, the food's very good, but they have limited parking, Jaybirds especially. So they need that for their customers. And all these businesses, remember, are just trying to come back from the COVID shutdowns and a year and almost a half of limited business. So they need their parking to get their customers in there. And like you said, be respectful of private businesses, private property. There's also no parking on, there's a few empty lots around some of the neighborhoods that houses were on at one time that were torn down. It's a city ordinance. You can't park on a grassed-in lawn or one of those empty lots either.
Oh, I will say, what street? The street that runs along the brew house. I forget what it is, but you dead end into the little walkable bridge. So there is no parking down there, but there is one lot like a block over, and they have the biggest signs. And one year, a few years ago, I parked there because even for Keego residents, just so people know, if you're a resident and you live in Keego and you don't live on the beach, parking is difficult for us as well. We don't get special parking, and so I parked there, and I got a really nasty note on my car from one of the owners. No, it was from the owner of the lot, because you see it and you're like, oh, it's an empty lot. But here's one thing for everyone out there who wants to park at the brew house or Jaybirds or B1s, they're hiring right now.
True.
Pick up a shift.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Go and say, hey, I'm going to go ahead and work one shift. And then guess what? If you're an employee and you say, can I use your parking lot? They're probably going to let you.
There you go. One of the perks of working for the company.
Exactly. So with that too, though, Chief, I do want to ask you, because there is a little bit of confusion. We only have limited parking. I know that I've been noticing recently, because one of the things that I like to do is I will park at, I think, is it Fran Park?
Friendly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Friendly Park.
And then you can, I blow up my raft through my little handy dandy smart car. I have a thing that works out of my car, and I can walk the walk to go over to the park. Is that legal?
Yeah, that's a parking spot. There's very limited. There's like 3 or 4 spots there.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be for use of the park, and that park, I believe, is connected to the beach there, so that would be legal.
So I do have a little sign that sometimes I put up at my car that says Keego resident.
That should help a little bit. Or just put your name on there. We'll know to leave you alone, Ronnie.
Exactly.
Well, I will say, I think everyone pretty much in Keego knows my smart car. Anyway, not so much my SUV, because black SUVs, they're all the same.
the Bubbles.
But Bubbles, everyone knows that. Hey, Chief, though, obviously we're going into the summer season. It's just not the beach people and the attraction that Keego brings for everyone coming to Cass Lake, but fireworks, they seem to already be starting. What are the rules and regulations around fireworks in the city of Keego?
Well, the city of Keego is pretty much the same as the state for private fireworks. If you picked up some at Costco or Jake's Fireworks or whatever, most of the stuff that you can buy commercially at one of those type of stores are legal on certain days and certain times. Now, if you have somebody going, well, my buddy's cousin Greg can get you these cool ones that Zambelli Fireworks uses on downtown for the big fireworks show, don't do it. Those are illegal, and they're extremely dangerous, as a matter of fact, deadly. So if you're not a professional with those and have the proper permits and licenses, don't get anything that you can't just buy on the off the shelf at a regular fireworks store or one of our commercial businesses. But fireworks are only legal from June 29th to July 4th from 11 a.m. until 11:45 p.m. So limited hours, and those are the only days. Don't start using them before then because it's illegal. And the other thing is you have to be on private property where you're allowed to be to use them. You can't use them on public property, streets, sidewalks, school lots, church lots, or any other person's property without their permission. So remember, you got to keep them at home. And in Keego, fireworks aren't really a great idea to begin with because our houses are so close together, and we have a lot of trees and bushes, and we don't want to start a fire because it could easily spread from house to house. So my biggest advice is to go watch a professional fireworks show somewhere.
Yeah, and the great thing this year is we know they are going to be returning. Otter Lake is going to be doing some. I believe there'll be some on Dodge from Dodge Park. Just go on to the Keego page or the Sylvan Lake page, and you'll see the times and the dates listed. And with that too, though, from a law enforcement standpoint, how do you try to enforce that? Because I feel like we're hearing fireworks almost every night now.
You do end up hearing fireworks, and you hear them from. They might not even be coming out of your city because if they're just across the border, you're going to hear them too. But if you have somebody lighting off a set of fireworks and putting on a show in the street, and it's outside the hours and the proper day, or like I said, they're in the street, give us a call. We will come out, and many times they've wrapped it up by the time we get there, but we can write them a ticket for it. And we don't want to be heavy-handed on our enforcement, but be respectful of your neighbors and be respectful of their property, because fireworks cause litter when they go up in the air and blow up. All the paper parts and plastic parts fall in other people's yards. But our officers are also on the lookout for them when they're out patrolling. So you never know when we're going to turn the corner if you're in the middle of the street with your bottle rocket set up or something.
And we like that. Hey, Chief, did you see the story? I think it was Michigan State Police in Detroit. They found they busted the guy. He had over 400 pounds of illegal fireworks all laid out on the front lawn, and he was selling them. And they were illegal, not even trying to hide it.
No, I didn't hear about that one, but I'm glad they found them. But those are the ones I'm talking about. Your buddy's cousin's friend who has a source to get you the big, cool fireworks. Don't do it. Mainly because of the danger involved in those things too. And
it really is, we typically have them in our neighborhood, but you have to remember the houses are so close. And, I worked at Channel 7 years ago when the weather guy, Rexy, bent over a firework, and it came into his eye and he lost his eye. So they're dangerous as well. So you need to be careful when you're doing this, but also respectful of your next door neighbors, because when we go out the day after some of the fireworks, it's just like litter zone. So yep. I'm the nice neighbor that I take them and drop off the litter back at the front porch.
Yeah, and you're right about the dangers of them. Every year you're going to hear a story. Somebody loses an eye, somebody loses part of their hand from something going off. They're meant for adults. They're meant for sober people. Getting intoxicated and using fireworks is not a good idea either. So you just have to be very careful. And like I said, the best bet is to go to the professional shows. And once again, unfortunately, in Keego Harbor, there's no parking to go to see any of the ones on the lakes around here when they have them. Very, very limited parking. But if you have a friend's house or something that they're willing to let you come over, come out and do that and watch them go off over the lakes.
Chief John Fitzgerald with us here from the fine city of Keego Harbor. And going into the summer months, do you anticipate this summer is going to be busier or not as busy as last year because we're seeing more restrictions lifted?
It's a two-sided coin there, because now that restrictions are being lifted, people have more options of things to go do, whereas last year it was go camping or go out on the lake. You could get on the boats and be together out on the boats. It has started out as a pretty busy year on the lake with on the good weather days, and we expect it will continue to be very busy there. And that's where we need safety to come into play, because there's on the sandbar at Keego, you get people swimming, wading, walking between the boats, all the boats close together. It's a no wake zone. It's a very slow moving area if you happen to be there navigating a boat. And remember that if you're driving a boat, they have the same kind of laws about intoxicated operation as with a motor vehicle. You could be arrested, and it could end up costing you up to $10,000 in fees, fines, attorney fees, lost work, and impound fees for your boat. And we don't want to have any on the water accidents because of drinking and boating.
You know, it's been so ingrained in us about designated drivers, but that same message hasn't seemed to cross into the boating world.
It's tough, because boating is always seen as a place where you can go relax, and you're allowed to have an open alcohol container on a boat. And people sometimes just tend to get carried away. We like to see the responsible ones out there, and most of the boaters are responsible in terms of not being intoxicated and driving their boat. But please don't do it, because if you, especially in the crowded sandbar area, if you injure somebody with the prop on your boat or run them over because you didn't see them, and there's little kids out there, there are serious criminal charges aside operating while intoxicated. Hopefully we don't have any serious injuries, but if it happens, there will be charges to somebody.
And we should note too, Chief, I was out there last week, and sometimes the boats are putting their anchors down in the sand, and the water's only waist deep. It could be hard to miss that anchor, and people could be injured there as well. So you need to be sober and paying attention, not just if you're driving the boat, but also if you're going to be out walking through the water as well.
Yeah, one of our most frequent injuries that our Marine officers have talked about over the years is people who lost fingers jumping off the side of their boat when their rings on their fingers catch the rail as they push themselves away from the boat. Oh. Kind of a gruesome injury to have, but another thing to stay sober and be careful about.
Hey, music, do you guys get a lot of complaints?
We do, because not everybody wants to hear the super loud music blasting, even to the nearby boats sometimes, but the homeowners along the edge. And if I think about it, once again, it's respect for other people. If you were at your house and your neighbor that lived right behind you aimed his speakers from his stereo out the back straight at your house and then put on music and just cranked it up, how would you like that? That's the same thing the boats are. They're in the backyard and they're right up there, and sound travels across the water. They're right there, and it is disturbing the peace. The actual law is we can't hear the music. I believe it's 100 feet from the boat. So if we can hear it 100 feet from the boat, you could end up getting a ticket. And I hate to keep throwing out there you can get a ticket, a citation, or arrested, but we do what we have to do to try and keep the peace for everybody around the area.
You're listening to 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake, 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. Chief, just another minute or two, because I will say, anyone who's been out on Cass Lake, everyone knows Officer Cote, and he's always pretty cool. I think his rule is if his feet get wet, someone's going to the hospital or getting arrested. That's a pretty good rule to have.
Pretty much it. If he gets his shoes wet, somebody's going to go to jail, or it's because he's trying to save somebody and they're going to the hospital. But You picked up on that. I like it.
I've done a few ride-alongs with him over the years. Let me say that. And with that, though, we should tell people, be respectful of the others out there, but also the officers, because when they go out, they're so laid back and cool in dealing with people. Just don't be an idiot to the officer. But I will say, you guys had who was the officer out a couple weeks ago? Did you guys have a new Marine officer helping to fill in?
We have a couple of them. There's Officer Clevenger and Officer Downs. They go out together a lot on the Marine Patrol, and Officer Cote. So they'll be out there as often as possible. And we're not out there to ruin somebody's good time, but the biggest thing is be respectful of other people. Don't throw anything in the water, too. That's another one. There's garbage washing up on the beaches and floating around out there. Because I went out on the Marine Patrol last Sunday myself and saw the cups floating in the water. That's actually another criminal offense that you can be charged for if anything flies off your boat. So it's not even just throwing it off your boat. So keep everything secured there, and keep track of the cups and the plates from your pizzas and whatever you have on the boat, because nobody else wants them washing up on their shoreline or be swimming and bump into somebody's empty cup.
Chief Fitzgerald here with us on the Megacast. I will say, one time years ago covering Jobby Nooner, someone was smart enough and they had a boat out there and they were delivering pizzas. And I'm like, one day I'm going to come up with this. Sure. I'm going to go to Little Caesars. It's right there in Keego. Right. Buy a bunch of pizzas, go out on my raft, float by, and start selling them. $20 a pizza. I bet I could do it. Good. Wait until about 2 or 3 when they're hungry.
You could probably make a few bucks doing that.
Chief, it's always great having you with us. Anything else maybe you want to touch on before we say goodbye?
I'm just hoping everybody has a very safe and patriotic holiday coming up for July 4th, Independence Day. We want to have everybody, like I said, safe, no injuries, no fireworks injuries, no fires caused by the fireworks. We just want to smile and wave and be the nice police is how we'd like it to work out. Respect each other, and it will work out that way.
And always be nice to the officers, especially when you're out on the water. Don't be mean.
I can say this too with how things have been going in the country with the police departments and some of the media attention that they've gotten and kind of a bad look, and the people of Keego Harbor, Sylvan Lake, Orchard Lake seem to appreciate their police departments here. I can say that I haven't been thanked in my 35 years near as many times as I have in the last year by our citizens, and we appreciate when they acknowledge us and say hi. We'd rather be friendly with everybody and have a kind word and a thank you and a you're welcome, and we do appreciate when people tell us that, and so it's nice to know how much our local area appreciates their law enforcement.
That's great to hear. It's great to hear because we know it's been a rough year for so many of you on the front lines as well. So, Chief, again, thank you for your time. We always appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. Have a great weekend.
You too. Enjoy the sunshine. It's going to be a beautiful and happy Father's Day to you.
Oh, thank you very much.
We'll take a quick break here on the Megacast. And talking about dogs, we'll have the owner for Premier Pet Supply. I've seen a lot of dogs out on the lake recently. We've been trying to get Trixie into the water. What should you know? We'll be talking about that and so much more next here on the Megacast.
Can I ask you a question? Why did you get your kids vaccinated?
It was hard for them to social distance, to be isolated from their friends.
I want them to get back to school and sports games. So as a pediatrician, I recommend the vaccine to everyone I know.
The boys lost a former teammate and classmate who was only 20 years old. It's been a devastating year.
We want to get back to normalcy. Our daughter is really looking forward to being with her friends, being a kid. Can I ask you a question? Why did you get vaccinated?
I'd like to go to these school dances and spring break to have fun.
I want to be in person for college next semester.
I want to get out of this pandemic.
I wanted to protect the people around me.
Why did you get vaccinated?
Because I'm really looking forward to hanging out with my friends.
I just want to go to a show, dance around, not have to worry about anything, feel like I'm free again.
So we can not miss out on the best years of our life.
Thank you for taking time out of your day to be with us here on the Megacast. It's so weird. Like, the days are flying by for me.
They are. It's crazy.
We're just like, we have volleyball tonight, and it's like, wait, Is it Thursday already?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's already Thursday. It feels like the last couple of days have just not even happened. I mean, yesterday, man, I was here until about 7:30 last night for a couple of meetings during the day that need to happen, municipal meetings, and usually those nights, by the time I'm done, I'm just dead tired. That meeting was over. It's like, where did this day go? It went by really quickly.
You know what? A great way, though, to spend the days, Tyler, outside in the sunshine.
I wish.
With your pet. We've been taking Trixie Dixie to Dodge Park, trying to teach her how to swim. She's part lab. It should be natural.
Right. You'd think.
Hey, let's bring in Michael Palmer, a good friend over at Premier Pet Supply, the owner. Michael, always great to have you with us. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
So there are so many dogs at the beach right now. Everyone is taking their pooch over to the beach. Great way for them to cool off. But we also are a little bit concerned about, having your dog on the water. What should people know before taking their pet into the water? Because I'm sorry, she was a lab. She's part lab, we think. We haven't done a DNA test. That's what they told us at the rescue. We don't know. But don't labs automatically know how to swim?
It's funny that you say that because, yes, absolutely. And most dogs do have a natural instinct to know how to swim. But the one thing people fail to remember or even think of is that all dogs can lose energy very quickly while in the water. So while especially on a boat, having a life jacket is super important. Now this one would be far too small for your lab mix, but they do make them in 6 or 7 different sizes that will accommodate dogs well over 100 pounds. It's really important that we keep life jackets on them because if they were to fall, into the water, and if we weren't able to get them right away, or they didn't come back, or were disoriented, they could easily tire, and that could be a big danger for them for sure.
Hey, Michael, you were reading my mind here, just so people know we didn't really pre-plan that. But so because we've been trying to find a life jacket big enough for, what should people look for when trying to get a life jacket for their dog?
So what's really important, obviously, is something that's highly visible so that they can be seen in the water if they were to be in that water. So similar colors to what you'd find in human life jackets, but you want one that's going to fit well and not be too loose, but also has an area that would go below the muzzle, around the neck, that keeps the head up and keeps the head up out of water. That actually is a lot healthier and safer for them. For sure.
But I noticed that it has a handle on the top as well.
Yeah, so the handle makes it easy for you to prop them, get them up, and get them back up into the boat, or even if it's in your backyard in your pool, just to get them out of the water and and keep them up. Even if you can't get them in right away, at least you can help them stay above water.
With that too, is it good to use that? Will that help them be more comfortable with learning how to swim? Because for our dog, as soon as she gets a little bit deep and she can't feel her feet on the bottom, she starts to panic. So if you had that and you could lift them, would that help?
For sure, and absolutely, because that would help guide them, and you can stay next to them and you could have more control, so it's easier for you as well. If you have the opportunity to practice, I would obviously recommend doing it closer to shore or in a pool, before you get out there on a boat.
For so many people here in our area, because we have so many lakes, you see so many pets. They're not only on the boats, but the kayaks and, the canoes as well, paddle boards. We've seen them on those as well. So they have to have a life jacket. Get a life jacket.
Absolutely. It's very, very important. And most people are smart enough to do that, especially on paddle boats or canoes or kayaks where they can easily fall off. It would be irresponsible to not have the dog in a life jacket.
Think of it like your kid. They are our kids. So you put your kid in a life jacket, put your pet in a life jacket as well. And obviously we're talking about dogs. I have yet to see a cat out on a boat yet.
Cats are not big fans of water, that's for sure. Or travel.
It's true.
And with that too, if we could talk about it, because obviously fireworks are coming up, and we're already hearing them going off pretty much nightly here within our area. What should people know? Because it's not just dogs that get freaked out, but cats can get freaked out as well.
You're absolutely right. In your previous segment, I heard you talk to the chief about fireworks going off seemingly every single night, and it sometimes is unavoidable. If there is a firework or even a thunderstorm that a lot of dogs and cats both get freaked out about, that you can prepare for. The idea and the ideal thing to do would be to have some sort of all natural treat form type medication, not necessarily a sedative, but one that'll actually kind of trigger receptors in the brain to provide calm. There are many treats and supplements out there that have chamomile and valerian. They have B vitamins and colostrum. These are very, very good minerals, vitamins, things that help supplement and provide calm. Another thing that you can do, it's very easy from home, is finding a place, if you're fortunate enough, to have a basement or area that's quiet, to keep them down in those areas as well during fireworks or thunderstorms is something that definitely is, recommended and makes it a little more comforting and comfortable for them. But you have to be careful. When they start to cower and they get scared, your first reaction, your instinct is to cuddle with them, pet them, let them know it's going to be okay. You have to be very careful because that essentially is endorsing the negative behavior. You don't want to do that either. So having a supplement is something that really is ideal, and there's a lot of great options out there.
What about CBD? We're seeing that so much for pets. Can we get them stoned? Although CBD doesn't really get them stoned, but it chills them out.
Except, the CBD will give them the calming effect that the THC would, but there is no THC. And in order to be pure and true CBD, it would only have maybe 0.03% THC. So there's no psychotropic effect in CBD. It just has the medicinal value. It helps with aches and pains and overall calm. CBD is a great supplement for that. It's something that you want to give every 12 hours on a regular basis, more so like a daily supplement.
Yeah, I know that for my sister's dog, it helped immensely with seizures that the dog was having.
Yeah, it's incredible. It really is. I think we're learning more and more about the great benefits for both people and pets, and it's really nice to see so many pets be able to cope or recover from a lot of ailments like that.
Michael Palmer with us here on the Megacast. He's the owner of Premier Pet Supply. And Michael, if I can ask you too, a few years ago it became really popular. You were seeing all the commercials for those. It was like a thunder jacket or something of that nature for pets.
Thunder shirt.
Yeah, thunder. Is that something that you still recommend, or does it work for some animals and not other animals?
Yeah, so, we're very honest in saying that it doesn't work for every animal, but I would say it's got a 60 or 70% positive type of, reaction review from what we've received from our customers. Essentially, it's very thin fleece that you can you put on very snugly around the dog or cat. We still sell many of them. It's this, I guess the best way to describe it would be similar to swaddling a baby. When dogs and cats feel that like warm, tight hug, it makes them feel comfortable, and you're allowing them to help cope with the issue as opposed to endorsing it like we spoke of before.
Yeah, that's a great way of looking at it. And at the end of the day, if your dog is a nervous dog, try anything and everything, just like you would a human. We try, and then we find out what works for our pets, because they really
there's
are
a lot of trial and error.
Yeah, they're a part of our project or part of our family. So I will say I feel like we're focused on dogs because I think dogs rule and cats drool. But Tyler's a cat person, so any tips out there for the cat owners?
Well, I would say, treating them in the same manner, and typically the saying goes completely the opposite, because cats do rule the roost. They actually have us trained, and dogs are just there and of course, do a lot more drooling, but we love them both the same. For cats in general, I think when you are dealing with one that has some anxiety issues or just gets spooked by loud noises like fireworks, just being prepared for that. Giving them an opportunity to have a space or an area of the home where it is a little more quiet. And there are supplements, calming aids, again, that have the same type of vitamins and minerals in there that you could give to them. Not quite as easy because cats are very picky when it comes to giving them treats, but CBD is a lot easier because you put that right in the canned food or just put that right in the mouth, and it does have a great effect.
Okay, Tyler, any kitty cat questions?
Yeah, I mean it's the same sort of stuff that we have been talking about with them, with the fireworks coming up and with the loud noises of the summer, but also with just general behaviors, bringing new cats into a home. A lot of people during this season have been adopting cats. A lot of people have been bringing them into their homes and reacclimating them to new schedules as they're going back out. Cats are very cyclical, and they want things to be done in a way that is similar day by day. So as people are readjusting to life, what can they do for their cats to readjust them to their new lifestyle? Because much like moving or any other disruptions, those can really throw off these animals.
Absolutely. I mean, you could leave the house for 2 days out of the week, and that takes them off of their schedule, and they could rebel and not be happy with you and start to have behavioral issues. But you're absolutely right. We adopt out cats and kittens for the Michigan Humane Society in all of our locations, and they have been going so quickly, and it's so great to see all these cats and kittens find homes. But a lot of people do have cats in the house already, and being able to introduce a new cat into a new environment is something you got to take very slowly. You know, having them separated and let them kind of communicate and talk underneath the door, let them, you know, get in, the smells in the air and get situated with one another, and then gradually introducing them over a course of many days is very important. It's always smart to keep things as consistent as possible with your cats, keeping the litter box in the same spot, trying not to disrupt, the typical flow. But they're a little easier going, than our dogs are, because, that's when, we start getting back to normal behaviors and going back to work and leaving the house for longer periods of time. The cats pretty much do a good job of taking care of themselves and being independent. It's the dogs we have to worry more so about. And, unfortunately, what we don't want to find are people thinking that they've got, a dog that just has behavioral issues, when really it's just an energy thing, and they're not getting as much attention as they were when we were home for the entire day.
Yeah. How many times did you walk your dog throughout the pandemic, especially in the beginning? I was like, come on, let's go. Trixie Dixie is acting like a, love-struck little teenager without my husband around the house as much, because she doesn't like me. I'm just the extra there that takes her for puppuccinos. But she's so attached to my husband, and he returned to work last week, and it's been interesting with that, Michael. Let's just say that. Hey, I noticed yesterday in Sylvan Lake, I think I saw one of your cars. So with the pandemic, or coming out of the pandemic, they were delivering food. I think it said delivery on it. Cute design, by the way. Are you going to keep that up? Is that here to stay along with curbside service?
Absolutely. It was one of those things that we had planned on doing prior to the pandemic. We were about a month away from launching, and I was really excited because I thought I was going to be the first pet supply retailer in Metro Detroit to offer curbside and delivery. Well, of course, now everybody's doing it, and it's just become a way of life. And, admittedly, there's, the Chewy.coms and the Amazons that provide these services, and it's becoming a part of people's everyday. And, what we're doing is we are doing local delivery within 10 miles of any of our locations for free if the order is over $25. We also have a promotion for anyone that sets up their first auto order on our website, premierpetsupply.com. They get 30% off. We're trying everything we can to kind of get people and implore them to support local. The big guys do a good job, and I wouldn't knock them at all, but we can also provide the same services, the same selection, very competitive pricing, and you'd be supporting local and keeping your money local. So we are going to continue. I'm a delivery boy now and will be for life. I've got the the signs on the side of my truck, and I did 3 deliveries this morning. I got a couple more I got to do later today.
With that too, I know it can be a little bit challenging. Like, we get the Chewy.com coupons in the mail, and then the ads pop up. Like right now, I think they have a dog puncture resistant raft that they're promoting as well. But at the end of the day, it's local, because it's not only supporting you and your team and the jobs here, but you do such an amazing job of supporting all of our local rescues as well.
Thank you. Yeah, it's very important to us. We've always found that having a business in a community means we have a responsibility to that community, and we do that for the right reasons. We don't do that because we're expecting immediate reciprocation, but obviously we know that we want to make our customers proud. You spend money with us, we're gonna support the community by donating to local rescues, donating of our time to local rescues, having the schools and everything that we sponsor through their events, and employing local people, and just keeping 70-80% of the money that you spend here local. You can't get that when you shop online.
And you have an amazing staff. Are you still struggling to get employees, or are you struggling to get employees like so many of the other businesses around the area?
tell you honestly, I'm almost hesitant to say it, but we get applications all the time. And, you know, I'll tell you the difference is that usually in our stores, you know, we get a lot of high school and college kids, and it's a first job. So there's still a lot of kids out there looking for their first job and needing that. We are not leaning and relying on, you know, kind of like the older demographic that, you know, is maybe still collecting unemployment or, you know, has other options out there. So we've been very fortunate in that we have a great deal of young individuals that want to work with us. But obviously, you know, we have a responsibility to, you know, training them and building them up and getting them confident to be great employees of not only our stores or whatever business they may go into for themselves or for anyone else in the future.
Well, you're doing a great job, because I will say we go to the one here in West Bloomfield, and your staff is always courteous and helpful. And Trixie Dixie can be a little bit of a challenge sometimes, but we're trying to get her out around people more because she was adopted just before COVID and then the shutdown. She's good with dogs, not so good with people. So it's a little bit of a challenge, and you have an amazing staff, and they're always extremely helpful. And with that, again, Michael Palmer with us, the owner of Premier Pet Supply. I know you have several locations throughout the area. Anything else that you want to add, or any events coming up that you want to share?
Well, you know, we're always very excited to announce and show our appreciation to all of our customers. So at the end of July, we always do a big customer appreciation event. Last year, due to COVID, we wanted to spread people out and spread things out. So we did it over the course of an entire week. We're going to do that exact same thing this year. So July 26th through August 1st will be our annual Customer Appreciation Week. 20% off everything in the store, no limits, no exclusions, for in-store purchases only. But it's a fun week and our way of just showing our thanks and giving back to our customers.
How many pets do you have?
So we have our dog, Frankie, who we adopted from the Michigan Humane. I've got a python named George that my son takes care of. And then we have an aquarium with lots of fish.
Oh, how fun is that, though?
It really is.
Do you get to bring your dog into work?
You know, I have from time to time, but she is very energetic and does not like to sit still. So I'm constantly moving her and on the move, and it's hard to manage her when I'm at work. Well, but she gets lots of attention and love when I get home.
There you go. Michael Palmer with us again. He's the owner of the Premier Pet Supply. How many locations do you all have now?
We've got 9 locations, and we're excited. We're building a store in downtown Detroit, and we're also got a couple going, one in Riverview and one in Westland coming up here towards the end of the year. With all the raw material shortages and labor shortages, things are taking a little longer than I had hoped, but we're going to get those stores open hopefully by the end of this year.
Look at that, still expanding in the middle of a pandemic, but I will say, too, it's like the cost of lumber and building right now is insane.
A lot of aspects, but you know what, we have got a great thing going. We got great support locally from the community. We're so fortunate to do that, and we're just going to keep moving forward as if this pandemic thing never happened, and you know, we're going to think positive.
Well, that is so great to hear. Michael Palmer with us again, owner of Premier Pet Supply. If you haven't been by, stop by. I know that it can be easy to order from Amazon or Chewy or one of these other ones, but why not order online? It's just as easy to order online now from a local company. You're helping support people right here in our community, but also supporting so many of the dogs and the animals and the rescues that they help here. Again, Michael, we so appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me. You guys have a great day.
So, Tyler, every time we go into the pet supply store, my husband and I break out into arguments because you can't go in and not buy a new toy.
It's tough. It can be very tough. You know, I have the same issue where I go in, I'll just be going in to pick up cat food, and I'll go and explore. I'll be like, all right, what could keep them occupied? Because they've been either destroying this toy, or they seem uninterested in this toy, or you know, I put it over their head and they swat at it for a few minutes. I throw it across the room. They run up to it and they're like, okay, that's fine, it's done. What can keep them engaged? So it can be tempting. It can be very tempting.
And I wonder, too, for their poor employees, because when you walk through, you have to squeak every toy in there.
Of course.
It's about the squeaker.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You got to be a squeaker.
So with that, we'll take a quick break here on the Megacast. We'll be back shortly.
people are getting out to walk and bike in higher numbers. More vulnerable road users and higher speed traffic can be a dangerous combination. Crash severity has increased, so if you're driving, be sure to slow down and look for people. There's no need to speed. If you're biking, ride with traffic. If you're walking, avoid stepping into the road if possible. If you have to walk in the street, walk facing traffic. Learn more at walkbikedrivesafe.org.
One of the things you can look for in your friends is a change in behavior. These can be big changes, they can be small changes in mood, physical appearance. They may be sleeping less or sleeping more, drinking more, or their eating patterns may be different. One big change that can be pretty obvious is change in motivation. Do they no longer want to play basketball? Do they no longer want to play video games? Now that we're spending more time online and in virtual settings, it's really important to pay attention to the language that your friend is using and the words they're using to communicate. So when we text our friends, are they taking longer amounts of time to respond? Are they not responding at all? You don't have to be an expert to try to recognize these signs. The second that you feel it in your gut and that you're concerned, that's the second to have the conversation and open the door to what might be going on.
Whatever gets you talking.
Today, it is easier than ever to join Michigan's Organ Donor Registry and help build a bridge of hope for organ, tissue, and eye donation. Just one person can potentially save or help improve the lives of up to 75 people. By joining, your legacy could be the gift of life. Sign up today at michigan.gov/SOS or at any of the more than 145 Secretary of State self-service stations located across Michigan. Be part of Michigan's Bridge of Hope by adding your name to the Organ Donor Registry.
Who is struggling right now?
I am.
My son is.
Many are struggling with anxiety, depression, and substance use. Before it becomes a crisis, reach out to MyCal, the Michigan Crisis and Access Line for free confidential support 24/7. Available in the Upper Peninsula and Oakland County. Just call or text 1-844-44-MyCal or chat online at michigan.gov/MyCal. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Motorcyclists are hard to see. To keep everyone safer, it's important to always look for them and know where most crashes occur. 84% of motorcycle and vehicle crashes happen on streets, not highways. And most crashes with motorcyclists occur when vehicle drivers are turning left. So before turning, especially to the left, make sure you look for motorcyclists. Then look again. It could save a life.
Welcome back to the Megacast. Of course, if you can't carve out 2 hours of your day to join us live from 10 a.m. until noon, we kind of get it.
Yeah, it's a lot of time. It can be a lot of time.
But we always have amazing interviews. And so with that, just go to civiccentertv.com, click on the Megacast. There you'll find full editions of the show. But even that, maybe you don't have 2 hours even to scroll through. We make it easy for you. Just click on the on-demand section, and there you can catch the individual interviews as well. Typically, it's posted, later the day of the show?
Yeah, it's usually posted by the end of regular business hours for the day, right around 5 o'clock, sometimes a little bit earlier. It all depends on what else is going on here at Civic Center TV throughout the day.
So it's pretty much no secret. My husband is a crazy comic book collector.
Very passionate, yes.
We bought our house around having enough room for his comic book collection. I'm not a collector. No. I can appreciate it. Don't really get it. But I've learned so much about comic books over the years. But the thing with him is he's so old school. And he wants to go into a comic book store, leaf through the actual books. And I'm like, why do you do that? You can do it digitally now.
Right.
But some people, it's just hard habits to break. But it's a lot of opportunity for some new people to really kind of break into that field. And with that, we want to bring in Ryan Tavares. He is the founder of Attack of the Rivals. Ryan, great to have you with us.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Tell us more about your background. Do you still read like regular old school comic books?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I have a cabinet next to me that's full of a bunch of them. But more so today, more prevalent are graphic novels or thicker collections that are on a shelf behind me here.
Those to me are so much easier because you can fit like 30 comic books in one graphic novel, right? So it's a little bit easier, and you don't have to worry about bending the pages and putting smudge marks all over the front of the page.
Yeah, so I mean, there's collecting, and then there's collecting to read, and some people like to be protective. Some people like to have 2 copies of each, one to read. They have a reader copy, and then one that they get graded. So it kind of depends on your interest in the hobby.
It's been an education for me, I will say. But I also, when it comes to some of these comic books, I always say to my husband, because, everything now is digital and you can read things online and kind of immerse your way in a different way of thinking. So tell us more about your background and how you got interested in this.
Okay, so comics. My interest started way, when I was a kid, and just getting random comic books at the grocery store, and not really knowing what was happening, but just really liking what was happening and knowing that it was this big world that I was kind of visiting and looking into. And I started drawing my own comics as a kid, never stopped, continued to draw all the way through high school, and then eventually went to CCS, College for Creative Studies in Detroit, with the hopes of learning how to make professional comics, and really just kind of continued to go from there. I ended up transitioning into graphic design, but also put those skills towards making books and making comics, and eventually transitioning out of graphic design into making comics full-time.
So with that, are you doing your drawing digitally now, or is it a hybrid of old school with new school?
Yeah, so for me, it's a hybrid system. I do a lot of my line work, or just like the actual drawing on the board with paper and ink, and then I'll bring it into the computer and I'll add colors digitally. But I've also done comics where I've done it totally traditional, including the lettering and the watercolor, or doing color with watercolor paint.
So with this, do you feel like, because of digital and also the online world right now, that it's opening up this genre to more artists such as yourself instead of having to go that old school way?
Yeah, absolutely. So something that I think is awesome about comics is one, they're kind of like a foundation to storytelling just in general. I think a lot of people as kids just drawing, they add words or letters, and characters talk and speak. So it's a language we're all familiar with. And also with that, with the technology aspect, so long as you can take a picture with a phone and have an internet connection, you can draw a picture and upload it. And you can do that over and over and over and create your own comics that way as well. And so it's kind of democratized that medium and makes it really easy to kind of delve into, but also participate and even obtain and read, because not everyone is willing to give up the space. So, you can do an online service and read books digitally, but also the participation aspect of people making comics, having it digital has opened it up tremendously.
So with that, Ryan, if I can ask you, tell us more about Attack of the Rivals.
Yeah, so Attack of the Rivals is my studio, and I'm a self-publisher, so I'll publish my own books. And what that means is taking the book from concept to an actual product and getting the book printed and then distributing it. So distributing it sounds big, but in my instance, it just means selling my books online and mailing them out, going to the post office, shipping those out. I also do commission service for other people who want to make comics. And so they come to my studio, Attack of the Rivals, asking for art. And so that's kind of how I've structured that. Now that started about 11 years ago now, when I was out of college, and really was just kind of like a group of friends when we had gathered together and started just making our own stuff.
What's so fabulous, though, is that because of the internet and the way media works today and social media, you can open these doors and these opportunities for yourself. But when you were sitting around with your friends, did you really think you'd get here?
So at least for me, it's something I've always wanted to do. So what was interesting was, as I was getting into it and starting to put stuff online, that technology was becoming cheaper, easier to obtain, and even better quality. So something as simple as like having a scanner to scan your pages versus having a camera was advantageous. And so really it was just a matter of slowly working our way towards it. And in my mind, I knew it was possible. There's so many other people out there who are doing it. And being able to see that proof of other people on the internet posting their own comics and having success kind of reinforced that for me. But that being said, you know, it is still very difficult to break into. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's one of those things where the thing that you're fighting for is eyeballs and visibility. And sometimes it's a little bit of a war of attrition. Who can hold out longer? And so, like I said, we started 10 years ago, and it really took every bit of this 10 years to kind of get to the point where people would actually start to look.
So with that, starting a new business and trying to get recognition and get more people to pay attention, like you said, it's a marathon. How are you getting some of your funding? Have you been able to crowdsource some of this? Yeah. So actually, to start with, I've always been kind of from the ethos of like grassroots, start with like the minimum viable product, like the cheapest, lowest effort thing that you can do, and put it out there and see what it does, and then kind of build up from there. And so I've been actually putting comics together and printing them and paying for that out of pocket myself, just by working and setting money aside. But then getting to the point where just recently in October of 2020, I did my first crowdfunding campaign through Kickstarter. And how did that go?
It went fantastic. So what was the reason why I went to that is I had started to move away from doing single issue comics. So the comic books that people are more commonly familiar with, you know, they're 24 pages, short, easy to read, little bites. And I was finding myself having a hard time reprinting those and keeping those in stock. So again, if that's all coming out of my pocket, you know, once you start getting up in a number of issues, at least for me, it's important to keep people all on the same page. So I wanted to move to something that was a little bit bigger and do a compilation of a series of mine called Nomads. And this collects like the first 4 issues, and it saves me from having to order 4 different books. I just have to order one. But the price per issue is a little bit higher. So I turned to Kickstarter and had a tremendous amount of support. We funded in 3 hours. And then the rest of the 30 days was just extra.
Well, you know what that says, Brian, that people out there really appreciate your talents. So you must be proud.
Yeah. Well, and very grateful and humble for all the support. You know, something that at least I think about a lot is just kind of word of mouth and people that you know, and supporting other people. And that's actually one of the strengths of the indie comic scene. So, you know, what would be considered mainstream comics are, you know, Marvel, DC, these large conglomerates who are able to market and put stuff out there. But for someone like me, I rely heavily on avenues like Facebook and Instagram, and putting work out there to my friends and family and other people making comics, right? And so something that's cool about the indie scene is that we spend a lot of time promoting each other and trying to help lift each other up and amplifying that signal. And I think that has been something that I've just been amazed by over the last couple of years, is just the depth of that community.
That's great to hear. We really should all be lifting one another up because there's enough success to go around. Ryan Tavares with us here on the Megacast. He's the founder of Attack of the Rivals. We were just coming out of a pandemic. How has that been for you?
So that's interesting. While it's been a difficult time for a lot of people, myself included, part of my foray into comics full time was because of the pandemic and being furloughed, and really just thinking about, what do I want to dedicate my time to, and taking a bet on myself and seeing, if I could do this by freelancing and kind of just putting my own work out there. And I had a lot of time to do that and prepare for that, thanks to the COVID and, certain restrictions, and so it did impact me in that way. But what we also saw was a lot of other people who were cooped up, who were craving entertainment, people who were going stir crazy, that wanted to read and see movies and there's a lot of veracity there. And when a lot of larger studios and stuff aren't able to get together to make those things, sometimes these smaller, it's an opportunity for the small guy to kind of step up and put their work out there. And I think also when people are really craving some new material, they're more willing to kind of take a chance on something that they might not have heard of before.
Well, it's great to see a silver lining of this pandemic for some individuals, and it appears as if you really took advantage of the opportunity. Ryan, how can people find out more about Attack of the Rivals?
Yeah, so right now the best way to find out about my work and Attack of the Rivals is through my website, tavaresart.com. And so there you can find comics. I have some stuff that's up for free. I also have links to a store, tavaresart.bigcartel.com, and that's where you can purchase copies of my comics in physical form and digital form. And then you can also I'm posting work constantly on Instagram at tavaresart.
Well, you're very talented. So we appreciate your time today, and we wish you continued success. We hope this takes off for you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Again, you can find out more about his work, Attack of the Rivals, on Instagram, social media, and some of the other ones. We'll take a quick break here on the Megacast. When we come back, we're going to be talking about beauty. We've all been cooped up, Tyler. It's time to get our beauty game on.
Exactly.
This is the Megacast.
One of the things you can look for in your friends is a change in behavior. These can be big changes, they can be small changes in mood, physical appearance. They may be sleeping less or sleeping more, drinking more, or their eating patterns may be different. One big change that can be pretty obvious is change in motivation. Do they no longer want to play basketball? Do they no longer want to play video games? Now that we're spending more time online and in virtual settings, it's really important to pay attention to the language that your friend is using and the words they're using to communicate. So when we text our friends, are they taking longer amounts of time to respond? Are they not responding at all? You don't have to be an expert to try to recognize these signs. The second that you feel it in your gut and that you're concerned, that's the second to have the conversation and open the door to what might be going on.
Whatever gets you talking.
Welcome back to the Megacast. For so many of us, we spent the last year indoors, cooped up behind a computer screen and Facebook and all those beautiful things that technology offers, apps, to make us look good and filters. But time to get back out into the world, and you need to put your best face forward. To talk a little bit more, let's bring in Kelly Hermans. She's the founder of Beautify Aesthetic Boutique, opening up in Rochester. Great to have you with us.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Tell us more about Beautify.
So Beautify has actually been around for a few years. We were at a different location and had the opportunity to come join everyone at the Village. And we jumped on it because it's a wonderful, beautiful space. We are a medical spa boutique, I like to say. It's more of a casual girlfriend feel, not as much doctor's office feel. And we really focus on coming up with more of like a plan rather than just stopping in for Botox. So Botox is just a small piece of the puzzle, and there's so many more things that go along with it, and most people don't realize that, or they aren't exposed to it. So we here, me and my staff, like to just sit down and have an entire plan for somebody that it really has become like a thing, right? Like you said, everyone's trying to come back from COVID, and no one's taking care of themselves for a year and a half. So we're here to help.
And with that, Kelly, too, I will say, I'm a longtime friend of Botox. I've been getting it forever. But even right now, right, trying to get in, they're booked like 6-8 weeks out in some of these places. So are you anticipating you're going to be really jam-packed?
So we've been booked a month to 2 months out since last June, actually. It's been crazy. It's a wonderful problem to have. Here, myself and my staff are all advanced practice medical professionals. So everyone here is either an NP, a PA. I myself am a nurse anesthetist, and I have another nurse anesthetist that works here as well. So, people enjoy having somebody who's significantly trained in other things also taking care of their face, which is a blessing.
Well, and one thing you don't want to do is take shortcuts right now, because we've seen some Botox nightmares. But what are some of the other procedures that you're recommending or that's your specialty?
So, I think a lot of people have to realize it starts deeper than Botox. So it's more of a foundation, like, where's your collagen at? We actually have ultrasound machines here where we can ultrasound your face, your neck, your chest, your butt, whatever we're trying to improve, and actually find that like the collagen level and look at your deep dermis and everything and see kind of where you're at and come up with a plan, because there's a lot of things. We do all therapy, which is a skin lifting. We do radio frequency microneedling, which is a skin tightening. Depending on where you are in your aging process, how much sun exposure you've had, maybe you need a little bit more than filler and Botox, everything lifted and tightened up.
With that, Kelly, too, what are some of the bigger issues coming out of COVID? Because so many people have been spending a lot of time in front of the computer screen. Does that impact their skin?
Blue light can have an impact on your skin. They do say that you should wear SPF even if you're sitting in front of your computer. Wow. So that actually is something I learned about during COVID and kind of dug a little deeper into. But I think a lot of people don't realize when you're driving. So even if your windows are tinted, but like moms going back and forth to school, people driving back and forth to work every day, sports, now it's summertime in Michigan, you are exposed to the sun UVA and UVB rays through your car window. So the left side of your face actually ages faster than the right side of your face. But even wearing sunscreen on the top of your hands, sunscreen on your neck, your chest, anything, your left arm, and if you're driving a lot, you can significantly age more on the left side of your body if you're driving and through the windshield. So wearing sunscreen, even indoors and in your car, is super important.
See, we learn something new every day. Kelly Herman's with us here on the Megacast. She's the founder of Beautify Aesthetic Boutique. They are going to be opening up in their new location, or you are open, but you're having a grand opening celebration. Kelly, tell us more about that, and also how can people find out more about your services?
Today is from 3 to 7. Me and everyone who works here will be here today. We are having a tent outside. We have our ribbon cutting with the city of Rochester at 4 p.m. But we will be here from 3 until 7. We have representatives from the different drug companies who will be here, ourselves. We can, consultations, questions. I think the biggest thing for today is we're actually giving away a 1-year package where it's going to be like a transformation package. And it's valued at anywhere between $15,000 and $20,000 depending on what the person needs. But again, it's not to change the way you look, but kind of age backwards a few years, get a little bit more of a refreshed and rested look in your face, your body, your chest, all the things that have kind of taken a lacking the past 18 months.
Right. For women too, our big area, necks and hands. Those are the big areas.
So the two forgotten places on women for sure, neck and hands. And your neck, I feel like, is ignored a little more than your hands. And when you get it in comparison with your face you've been taking care of, it really starts to show your age. But like you said, your hands too. And a lot of that's from driving and actually holding onto the steering wheel.
The things that we learn. Kelly Herman's again with us, founder of Beautify Aesthetic Boutique. They are having their grand opening celebration today out at the Village of Rochester Hills. Kelly, where exactly are you guys located in the Village?
So we are between Barnes & Noble and Noodles. We face Adams. Our big, beautiful sign was just put up by the Rochester Sign Company last week, so people can find us now. But we are going to have part of the parking lot blocked off. We would love anybody to stop by and say hi and enter the transformation giveaway.
And if they can't make it out there today, what is your website for people to get more information and to make an appointment?
Yes, you can make appointments right through the site. It's beautifyu.com. So BeautifyYou.com.
Kelly, we so appreciate your time, and best of luck today.
Thank you so much.
What a great addition to the Village. It's one of my favorite places to shop. So, like you said, you're going to be very busy over the next year.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you again. That is pretty much going to wrap it up for today's edition of the Megacast. We'll be back here tomorrow, wrapping up the week starting at 10 a.m. This has been the Megacast.